Hey chat, welcome back to another Real Good Thursday. If you've never been here before, whoa. Yeah, Craig, I think we're getting that through your headset. If you've never been here before, every Thursday I stream with the Real Good team. Sometimes it's just the team hanging out, talking about what the organization's doing. Sometimes we have guests. Also, if you don't know what Real Good AI is, I guess that's important. If you don't know, I can't imagine how. Possibly wouldn't know at this point, but it's a non-profit organization. It's an ethical AI non-profit, and it is working. We are, I should say, because I'm president of the board. We are working to make sure that AI is here. AI is not going anywhere, and if it's going to be a part of our lives as much as I'm sure it is for you, it's everywhere for me, it might as well be actually good. It might as well be ethically developed. It might as well use ethically sourced training data and information. It might as well actually give you truthful answers, or at least tell you if it's not sure whether it's correct or not when it's telling you you have some disease, or how to file your taxes, or whatever questions people might ask. But also, hopefully, we can help people and understand how to use it, how to interface with it, what it is good at, and what it's not good at. And if you know anything about AI, you probably have concerns. And if you know anything about us, you probably know that we're trying to address them. That's the goal. Like I said, we have a guest. I'm joined today by Craig and Mandy, who are the Director of Outreach and the Executive Director of Real Good AI. But we're also joined by Dan, the Piano Man, also known as Music is Code on online and on Twitch. He does stream. He's also known as the guy who toured with Mark and friends, whoever the friends were, when we did live shows, but is also an educator, teaches music and math, and it's all in all a very fascinating person and a very talented person. And so we're going to have some interesting talks here. And if you have any questions, if you have any song requests, start thinking about them. Dan is possibly one of the most interesting people we've talked to. I know we've had some really interesting scientists and some people who worked for some cool organizations, but I can tell you from personal experience, there's a decent chance you've never seen anyone as talented as Dan, especially not on my streams. But yeah, I hope that was a good intro. Dan, how you doing?
That was great. That was better than I deserve. Oh my god. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. Oh my god. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that the incredibly talented and intelligent, highly trained scientists that you guys are talking to are way more interesting and impactful. But putting that aside, I'm really happy to be here, and it's been a pleasure so far to be on the Full Steam Ahead fundraising effort, which I think is a really, really needed, wonderful cause. And so far, my community has responded really positively to it. So
excellent segue, Dan.
Yeah,
this guy.
Well,
this
and
guy
that's
streams.
a good point. Thank you, Dan, for raising money in your community. We really appreciate it, and you're very much helping us be able to do what we're doing. So we appreciate your commitment to it as well. We know it's not easy.
I'm happy to.
Yeah, no, what did I click on? Sorry, I'm covering up Mandy's and my faces. That's perfect. Professional streamer here. I don't know if you could play Crazy Frog on piano. I don't know if anyone can play Crazy Frog on piano.
Wait,
but
how does that go again?
I don't know if I'm thinking of chat. Sing it.
I don't know Crazy
Frog.
Frog.
Hum a little bit for Dad. No, we could get to that. I don't want to jump into that too soon, but Dad has quite the party trick. He is a talented musician, but also he can kind of just play songs, even if he doesn't really know them. If he just hears, a snippet of the dude. Oh yeah, Eric in chat.
Maestro Oak said it's Axel F. Absolutely. Oh yeah, Axel F is a wonderful and time-honored melody that every keyboardist needs to know. So I could definitely do that.
Well, and I promise we have it set up. Dan will play music, and it will be beautiful and sound good because we have a whole song and dance we're gonna do. Well, it'll sound good. Don't be so modest.
All right, okay. It's gonna be great.
let's talk a little bit first about, I guess, your history, Dan. What you do right now is fascinating, but honestly, you've done a long string of really interesting things. Would
Mm,
you mind sort of giving your highlights of your professional career? Uh,
sure. Well, I think that probably the when I started to um, invest a lot of time into training for a musical career was actually in college. I was in the band for an annual musical comedy called The Hasty Pudding Show, or The Hasty Pudding Theatricals. And every year it's a student written show at Harvard College. And they hire a professional director and choreographer, um, a stage manager, set designer, lighting designer, and also music supervisor and arrangers and orchestrators to help the students sort of raise the production level of the show from a student show to somewhere near a professional production, or close to it. So as a student, I learned a lot from those professionals who came in to arrange the show, and it was also a learning opportunity, and they gave me an opportunity to orchestrate as well. So I started to learn about how to orchestrate for horns, and rhythm section. And after I graduated, I did a couple years at Berklee College of Music, learning more about arranging. And at the same time, I was hired by an improv comedy theater in Boston called the Improv Asylum. If anyone from Boston knows the Improv Asylum, and that's actually where I met my wife. They call her Wife is Code. So we started dating there, and she was an actor in the company, and I was the musical director. And I learned a lot about different styles and what it means to play kind of like a country pop as opposed to like a country western, or all the different types of Latin music styles, and how to accompany a song improv while supporting the actors.
yeah,
And
well, so this was the Improv Asylum, which is like an improv comedy theater, right? It's for
that's
anyone
right.
who's uninitiated. This is a place where you go and they do. It's kind of like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Is possibly one of the more relatable ways to connect it. It's not exactly the same, but so it's not. You're not playing like a musical where you have sheet music start to finish and you're playing something. What can you describe like what that role is like? Because I think a lot of people might be surprised at how improvisational your part was in the improv comedy
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing is when it comes to being an improv keyboardist, the role is determined largely by the director of the show. And there are plenty of comedy theaters that have keyboardists, but they have no interest in the keyboardist playing much of anything, and that's their prerogative. And the reason is because sometimes the actors feel like they're thrown off a little bit, or sometimes there are experiences with keyboardists who just do too much or they're too loud and they are distracting. The Groundlings Theater here in LA, I think, is a good example of a theater where generally keyboardists shouldn't play too much at all.
Hmm.
And the role of the keyboardist at a theater like the Groundlings, where I work a lot, and it's a great theater, and no knock on the Groundlings, but the role is basically just to play in the transitions between scenes when the lights are down, there's nothing else going on, and the energy needs to be maintained. And when the lights come back up and the next scene starts, then the hands come off keyboard and you don't play anything within the next scene, generally speaking.
Hmm.
And the only caveat to that would be if there's a scene which is highly stylized and it's an improv scene, like maybe it's a film noir, and it really calls out for some jazzy, underscore. Even then, not too much. Um, but then there are other situations, like for example, when I was on tour with you guys,
Yeah.
which was, oh my God, what a bucket list experience that was. And I was telling my chat last night that like the memories of being on that tour are so vivid. Like so many, like everything was so charged. Like there was uh, even just like being backstage early morning, trudging into those venues. Like I still remember a lot of that stuff because it was that period of time was so like surreal. Um, but uh, but our director, um, Mark Swanhart, who was incredible, right, uh, gave me free reign to play and support and come in with different types of like loops or music, and that's so basically what kind of a director are you working with, and how much music do they feel comfortable, and how much trust are they placing in the improv musician to not overshadow and not support the actors.
That's so funny given my experience with you, where we it was an improv comedy show for anyone who didn't know the tour that we did, and on every moment on stage except for the one where we had to sing and Dan always gave me rap for some reason,
Yes.
but every moment on stage we were like oh Dan, we're dying, save us, and Dan would come in with music or sound effects or something, and
You guys are great.
we relied on you a lot to be like, oh yeah, we're in space, space stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, honestly, like silence is like not funny. Like if the audience isn't getting it, but if like they make a joke about Star Wars and then it's boom, 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 boom right after, like it's very funny and it definitely enhances the comedy. At least, I mean, I'm a musician, so I'm very biased, but like some of the movies and things that we like the most, it's because of the music, and so the music really helped with the comedy on their tour for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, I was always just trying to keep you guys sort of front and center in terms of how do you how do you make everyone on stage uh look good, and generally that's an improv, mantra for being on stage also, is how can I best support my fellow actors and, you know, make them funnier, and that's where yes and comes from, which I'm sure Rachel stressed a lot to you guys. The idea of no matter what is said on stage, the answer should always be yes, yeah, and then adding to it,
Yep.
um, to support and and build.
Yeah, well, that's a good connection too. People in our audience are probably familiar with Ninja Brian and Brian and Rachel Wecht in general.
Mm-hmm.
You connected to them at the Improv Asylum, right, out on the East
That's
Coast.
right.
But now, like them, you live out on the West Coast. So what did you do? What Brian did? Quit your important PhD research position and go on the West Coast to do comedy music, or how did you get all
You
the
know
way
what?
over there?
When 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 my wife and I moved to LA, I was actually working for I was working in internet ad sales for Barnes and Noble, which had acquired the company that I was working for, which some of you guys might have heard of, if you're old enough. It's called SparkNotes,
Oh
and there
yeah.
was a comedy site called The Spark. Yeah, and The Spark was this comedy site, and for a while it was bigger than SparkNotes, but then very quickly SparkNotes overtook it, and um, there was first a kind of a in the .com craze. There's this consortium of websites called iTurf that no one has ever heard of since, but iTurf acquired us, and then Barnes and Noble came in and acquired and bought us from them. So then we were kind of headquartered in New York, and I didn't want to move to New York, and that was around the same time that we got married and we moved to LA. So yeah, that was when I stopped working for in internet ad sales, which was actually
Do you
kind of
miss it?
interesting at the time. Huh?
Do you miss it?
I don't, but at the time it was kind of exciting because it's kind of like the Wild West of,
Well,
when the
that's
internet was kind of
true. It's
growing.
that's not like an internet job today. That is working on the internet kind of in the time when it, like you said, it's the Wild West and everything is
Yeah,
kind of new and interesting and weird. But
yeah.
I can't imagine that was remotely as much fun as what you get to do nowadays.
Oh no, no, not at all. Yeah.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, sometimes I look back on it and I was like, oh, having a job. Yeah, that's nice. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that that my wife has a full-time job with great health benefits, and
mm.
so don't have to pay out
Well,
of
you're
pocket
saying
for
you're
that.
saying you don't like the streamer life of having income from 12 different organizations. Every time you file taxes, you get a whole stack of papers, and you're like, God, I hope I'm not missing one.
Yeah.
I hope everyone sent me this stupid forms they're supposed to send me. Jeez.
Yeah, that's always fun. Oh, and by the way, thank you to West for the compliment on the shirt. Ideal music nerd getup. Thank you. Yeah, you know what? I actually designed this, kind of chose all the little music symbols and everything. For a while, it was like my full channel, music is code, and then I realized it was too long and just like
Mm.
just that. So thank you for
Cause,
that. Appreciate
cause
it.
it's code.
That's right. Music symbols.
Well, since you brought it up, do you want to tell us the background behind Music is Code, the name?
Oh, sure. Okay. So the background is that we were in Texas, uh, like 2017, and it was I think it was right after that first South Shore show, Bob, um, and and Mark Swanhart, the director, the assistant director, were like, Dan, we need to talk to you about something. And I was like, okay. And I was like, oh man, I'm in trouble. And so we were like in the hotel, and they sat me down somewhere, and they were like, Dan, do you have a YouTube channel or something? And I was like, no, nope. They were like, do you have like an Instagram? No. And they said, Dan, you realize you're on tour with a bunch of YouTubers, right? And I was like, uh-huh. And they said, you would be a moron, Dan, if you didn't like do something, like create a channel. Like you need to do this. And I was like, okay. And so I did. And I created my Twitch channel at the same time, and I sat on it until 2020. But that was the beginning of it, at the urging of Swanee and yeah, and his assistant director. Um, and yeah, I in terms of the name of it, people have asked me like, what does it mean? And often the question is, what is it code for? Like music is code for something else, and that's always an interesting interpretation of it. But I think at the time, I just thought it was an interesting name. Although, as time has gone by, I've thought that um, that it can align sort of with something that I've believed for a long time, which is that music, I think, can and the people who play music and who other people see as talented, is perceived to be this kind of spiritual and um, you know, gifted ability that only certain number of people naturally have, and that everybody else, um, you know, should just sort of accept that and maybe not play that much themselves, or I don't know. Um, and that in reality, it's kind of like hard won, and like any other skill, you put in the hours, like Malcolm Gladwell's, theory about I don't know, it was outliers or something, or 10,000 hours or something like that.
10,000 hours, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But that music shouldn't be seen as this thing that only a few people are gifted at, but that it's like computer code, or you put your fingers in the right place on the keyboard, or the fretboard, and you practice and you listen, and you can develop these same skills, and that it's not a mystical thing. And and to say music is code, um, I think of it as sort of the same way as trying to encourage everyone to play music, and that everyone can, um, even if they can't achieve the level of playing that they imagine in their head is where they feel like they need to get to, that you can still derive a lot of enjoyment out of playing music at the level that you are right now. And that often, um, trying to attain a level, it can be really damaging to the enjoyment factor. Yeah, so that's kind of where I think about it.
Every musician ever always wanting that highest level that they don't have yet.
Right, and that will increase the enjoyment. But oftentimes it doesn't really, right? It just
Right.
leads to
Then there's another level. Yeah.
another goal, and another comparison,
Hmm.
comparing ourselves to other musicians is one of the worst things that you can do.
Right.
And I've been guilty of that myself.
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, I love this idea because I love the idea of like kind of how code is its own language, like a universal language. Music is also its own universal language too. So I think it definitely works on that level too.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, and lately I've been starting my streams with improv segments just to kind of get myself warmed up, and I'll ask for a word from the chat, and I'll try to translate that word into the musical kind of uh, translation of that. Um, and you know they have a they have a word for this in classical music. It's called programmatic. A lot of classical composers, especially 20th century modern composers, wrote a lot of programmatic music, especially when it was accompanying dancing, you know, either ballet or modern dancing. Um, and people love that. They love when music is kind of brought to them as opposed to just sort of something to be reacted to.
Well, and
Um,
I hadn't had this idea previously, but I'm sure you won't mind. I think chat might find it interesting. Would you do like an improv? Maybe if we could get a word from chat and just show
sure, yeah,
them
I'd love to
like
do that.
this is not a song request chat. Think throw out words and maybe Dan can pick one or two that he likes or whatever, and just to show like show off a little bit, but also
Oh, I haven't
see.
even really warmed up yet.
I think it's
And
so
by the way, I'm
funny. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say that when we transition over to me playing, you're going to see the overlay that I use uh, in my uh, in my virtual piano lessons, which includes an app that shows the piano notes above the keys as well as the kind of floating dots that I have on my stream.
It's very
You'll see
cool.
a staff in the upper right hand corner, the grand staff with all the notes. So it might be a little extra, as they say, but to explain what you might see there. But yeah, okay, so we have space or frog, drunk,
I like how
soup,
Eric gets in first with beef. Thanks, Eric.
beef. Okay, all right, from
That's I don't know if
Maestro.
you know Maestro Oak is actually Mandy's brother, but also
Oh, okay.
is going to be a staff scientist at Real Good. So he's a
But he
PhD in
also has
bioinformatics.
a degree in music from Oberlin. So.
Yeah, he's a degree in horn
Oh,
performance.
nice.
And so he is like Mandy. He's a musician and also a scientist. And
What instrument?
horn, French horn.
French horn.
Yeah,
French horn.
He would
Okay,
hate that I said French horn.
I know.
Just
Yeah,
horn. Sorry.
just
My bad.
horn. Yeah, I love that instrument.
There's
I love
nothing French
horn.
about it. Blah 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 blah.
Um, actually, I think I have a French horn instrument here. So I can, let's see, is it this? Okay, so I'm gonna try to incorporate French horn, but also like beef.
Perfect.
Okay, all right, here we go.
Yay!
And
Go
I'm
for
okay.
it.
Okay. And I'm okay. Okay.
Yay. Well,
Beef.
I'm really sorry I didn't bring my big glass of red wine to go with that
I know.
beef. So
I was trying to really get into some meaty harmonies there. Never
nice.
never heard such fun harmonies for beef. Thank you, Keith. This overlay has changed since I last saw Dan stream. So cool to see the notes on staff. Thank you, West. And actually, and I don't even show that particular overlay on stream. I was I realized that my stream overlays, I need to like deactivate all sorts of stuff, and that instead I could use my education overlay, and that's typically what I use in lessons. So that's why you've never seen it before. But yeah, I use an app called Cordy app. That's how I'm showing the notes above. Whoops, above
Yeah, that's
the,
really cool. So is it just listening and picking that out, or is it connected into your piano and like getting the actual info from the piano for what you're playing?
Yeah, that the latter, exactly. Yeah,
Okay,
so
cool.
it's kind of quote unquote listening for the MIDI notes, and
Mm.
then um, there are um, there are a few windows that are included with the app, and they're white, so I kind of use the inversion plugin, like the color inversion plugin in OBS.
Hmm.
So then it's sort of like, and then the what's the word, like the additive blending method. So that's kind of transparent. So it's only the letters that appear as opposed to the whole window. And the same with the grand staff um, in the upper corner. I've been thinking that maybe that's been confusing, also having the grand staff,
Uh,
but yeah, it's a think it's a lot of fun, and
I
it
think it's
helps.
really cool to see, but for
Oh, good.
non-musicians, I can understand maybe that's a lot. I
I
think it's crazy. As a musician who's played instruments exclusively that play one note at a time, it's so fascinating to see someone play piano where it's just like you're all over the whole thing. It's ridiculous, but that was very interesting. That overlay is
Oh,
awesome.
thanks. Yeah, and I think when I have the sustain pedal down, it kind of it holds all of those keys down and all the letters. So even though I might not be technically pressing those keys at the time, the sustain pedal
Mm.
keeps all those letters there, and it's like can blend into a mishmash a little bit. Um, but uh, but yeah, that was fun, and and I really enjoy doing those kind of programmatic improvs.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
And
didn't get all the way through your career, I don't think.
oh
Um,
yeah,
No, I got too
yeah.
excited about
so
that. We did
yeah,
the
we
thing.
got too excited about all the pieces along the way, but uh,
Well, okay, so at the asylum, that's where I met Rachel, and yeah, both me and my wife are good friends with Rachel, and it's because of that friendship with Rachel that I found out about the call for needing an improv keyboardist for the You're Welcome tour, because I just, in addition to not having any kind of social media, I was barely on Facebook, and I think I'm back to barely being on Facebook. But uh, my wife told me, "Hey, Rachel said that there's a group of guys that are looking for a keyboardist for an improv show." I was like, I was like, okay. And yeah, the rest is history. But
Well,
in
isn't that
terms of,
story of that really funny though? I was not in on this part, but you auditioned for Mark and Ethan, is that right?
mhm.
And I think I've heard you tell this story. I don't know if I've heard it from them, but basically you went and they were hearing auditions from multiple people, and you went and did your thing for a minute and whatever happened, interacted with them, and I don't know if it was as you were walking out or right after you left. Weren't they immediately just like, yeah, that's the guy. We pick him.
I I
Everyone
think
else is
Tyler's
done.
told me that, and that's very flattering. Yeah, and I remember I remember going there and just having this instinct to bring everything that I would bring to a show. I could have just brought a keyboard, but I like brought my laptop and like different MIDI controllers and like way more than I needed. And I didn't end up using that, but I ended up sort of like all that extra stuff I did bring to Tulsa for our when we were putting the show together, and that was really instrumental in creating all this extra musical material that the assistant director was planning on doing, but was happy for me to
Yeah.
do. But
Well, all that your setup became a core part of the whole show. You built a lot of the structure of the show was kind of we thought it up, but then you put together like the sound and musical elements that made it all happen. It was
yeah, and I mean, and again, it was all because of the trust of Swanee. You know, I think a lot of directors wouldn't have placed so much trust in random keyboard guy. But also, I remember from the audition that Ethan, I thought was like a like a middle school intern kid or something. Like I was like, oh, there's a kid with blue hair who's like, you
this
know,
is this
like
is 20-year-old Ethan
This
with
is
blue
a cool
hair.
kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
yeah. I was like, that's maybe this is somebody's brother who's just kind of hanging out. Did a backflip. I don't know. But yeah, and I had no idea who Mark was, and I didn't say hello to him or anything. And I think afterwards, I was like, hey, I'm sorry if I didn't sort of come up to you and be like, thanks for the opportunity, or because I didn't know who you were, and he was like, honestly, I think that's part of why you got the job, because they were looking for somebody who was not a huge fan or deeply in you know gamer fandom in general.
sure,
Um,
sure.
but coming out to LA, uh, one of the actors who was at the Improv Asylum uh, was got me an opportunity to be the kind of right hand keyboardist, the alt keyboardist for the musical director at the Groundlings at the time, and that's Willie Etra. And so I was basically playing at the Groundlings whenever Willie wasn't there, but I also got opportunities to play other shows when Willie had to be at the theater, because he needed to be there a certain amount of time. So I was able to play shows for the Jim Henson Company, for their improv show called Stuffed and Unstrung. Now it's called Puppet Up Uncensored. So it's a puppet show, but it's not for kids. And we're toured all around with that, regional tours, and toured to the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and they went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival,
Mm.
and I sadly was never able to go with them on that one, but had so many opportunities to play improv comedy keyboard, and I think that I wouldn't have had the confidence to even show up for your guys's audition for your tour if I hadn't have had, my those sort of muscles continually flexed by playing at the Groundlings and other shows. So that was a big part of of that road to joining the Your Welcome tour. Um, and and then in addition to that, I've had a variety of composing work that I've done out here, and I've kind of been sort of like a journeyman, sort of done some jingle work, um, and I've done some corporate documentaries, some royalty-free music, and then through all of that, I've continued to be an arranger for the Hasty Pudding show that I mentioned earlier. So
Oh, cool.
from 3,000 miles away, I've been doing piano vocal arrangements for their yearly show. So, yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, I saw you play tenor saxophone in San Diego at TwitchCon.
That's right.
You did talk about how you got into streaming, but how has your music stuff branched out, I guess, as a performer online? Because gigging and playing all these like real life gigs that you have sound very cool and fun, but I would imagine as a musician streaming from your home studio and doing what you do on stream must feel kind of different. And then I didn't even know you played saxophone until I saw you when I saw the schedule, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird. Dan has a show, but it says sax.exe. Must be
Yeah.
like accompanying them or something." Like I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Dan plays piano. I remember that. But
No, yeah, and that's a completely valid sort of thought process to go through. Uh, yeah, so one thing that I left out that could bridge the gap there is that when Wife is Code and I were still living in Boston. I was a part of a wedding band or general business band is what they would yeah, if you're in one of these bands, you don't want to be known as being in a wedding band.
Sure.
It's a general business band, GB band. And it was called Groove Alliance. And it was actually a really
Nice.
big band. And we were the house band for Foxwoods Casino in
All
Connecticut.
right.
Yeah. It was, and we had vests, we had wireless mics, we had dance moves that we were
Oh,
required
nice.
to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
We had to
no.
get on tables. We had to like be in sync with our moves.
I've had enough friends who've had like Disney gigs and cruise line gigs. I know how it is. You get the gig and they're like, all right, for this song we do this dance. Here you go, learn the dance.
Yeah, it was, and that was a wild time. And actually, I missed this crazy opportunity when my wife and I moved out to LA. It was kind of at the peak of this band's sort of work and visibility, and they were really upset when I left because I was kind of throwing my monkey wrench into things.
Mm.
But after that, the leader of the band, who had been in the I think reserve guard or some kind of volunteer military sort of weekend warrior service, was sent to Iraq and to be in the green zone there. And he invited the band Groove Alliance to play in the green zone.
Oh wow.
And so I missed that. And part of me is like, oh darn it, I missed that. But then part of me is like, whew, because I've heard about like how planes have to land in certain kind of war zones. There's kind of like this corkscrew thing to avoid like enemy fire or something, it's not like controlled descent like a commercial aircraft. So I'm like, well, maybe I'm glad I didn't have to experience that.
Mm.
But that would have been an experience. So anyway, so in Groove Alliance, I think I still remember all these parts, like all these songs that we played at weddings or at Foxwoods, uh, Sweet Caroline, Mustang Sally, Car Wash, like play that funky music.
Nice.
Did you
Good
do
times.
jazz standards too, or was it just crowd favorites?
It was crowd favorites basically, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean some more modern songs, but for the most part, it's that period of time from the like the mid 60s to the late 70s. Yeah, actually, and one of them was you might know this, Mandy, that song by Looking Glass. Do you know that song?
How does it go?
It's I forget. But it's like, so I think the name of the song is like, maybe it's just Mandy.
Oh, sure.
But then there's also, I think we also played the other Mandy song by
Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow. Yeah. So a lot of great Mandy songs, and we played them all.
Nice.
What are some other ones? Yeah. Anyway, so that was that. I played a lot of saxophone in that group. And for a time, when we were still living in Boston, I was an adjunct faculty member at Northeastern University in the music department there, where a mentor of mine, who is the music supervisor of the Hasty Pudding, is the head of the music department. And so he got me a job coaching a saxophone quartet there, and I learned a lot about arranging for saxophones while I was teaching at Northeastern. Yeah, I guess I left some stuff out there, but it all kind of blends together for me.
Well, it doesn't have to be completely exhaustive.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, such an interesting
Oh wait,
series
Brandy.
of things. Oh.
I'm an idiot. Mandy,
Oh,
Brandy. What's the difference?
Brandy.
That's it.
Oh,
I'm
no, I do
sorry.
know that
I'm so
song.
ashamed.
I don't know if I could sing it, but I do know that song.
It's from 1972.
Isn't that like You're a Fine Girl?
That's it. That's it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we played that one in Groove Alliance.
I mean, it could be
Um,
Mandy. If it was like at
We
our
could
wedding, I
adapt
think
it.
it would be Mandy.
Yeah.
But
um, Dr. Cheesehouse says my brother is a struggling saxophonist with a doctorate in music. I keep telling him to do more gigs and less teaching. Seems like so much fun. That that is a I can definitely empathize and sympathize with that. Um, you know, I something that I'm focusing on right now, and that maybe would be useful for Dr. Cheesehouse's brother, is the idea of using that training um, and knowledge to sell digital products, something that I'm focusing on myself. Um, and I think that there's a huge there's a huge group of people, especially people who are like older than 40 or 50, who are really very much online a lot more than people in that age bracket were 10 or 20 years ago. And they're really hungry for non-traditional types of education, and music education is a part of that. Um, I posted a I posted a video on my YouTube channel a little more than a month ago, and it was about left hand patterns that you can use and going through different styles. Um, and it got a much bigger reaction than I thought it would. I included a free PDF that people could use to follow along with the lesson. Um, and about, I don't know, 400 people like signed up with their email address to get the PDF. And the video got about 15,000 views.
that's really
And the
good.
demographic is like 95% men over 60.
Hmm.
I
That's
think part of it is because
really interesting.
it is, and I mean, it might be partly because the song that I was focusing on as the song in which to play in different styles is an old-fashioned song called "Mac the Knife."
Oh, sure.
Do you know that song?
Hmm.
So it might have been song choice partly, but I also think that there's a people really craving uh, more non-traditional types of education. And I think that the rise of AI, to kind of bring things back to AI, has only compounded that desire in people for real human interaction and knowledge, and getting good, credible, true uh, um, education and information from someone that is clearly real.
Yeah. Well, and I this question is directed at all of us, and maybe least of all at me because I'm not actually a scientist in a meaningful way. But Wes wants to know, how do you balance music and scientific opportunities or work? And I could tell you, as an observer, you don't. You kind of I mean, maybe Mandy has a different opinion, but to be like a successful gigging or teaching or whatever musician, or to be a really successful scientist at high level the way that Mandy is, and that our PhD scientists at Real Good are, you have to be pretty devoted to the craft in either direction, and you can kind of balance them. But I don't know, what do you think about that question, Mandy? Because it's hard. I mean, it's hard to do music when you're so hardworking at, you know, your science, and you think about that a lot and work on it all the time.
Well, I don't think they need to be mutually exclusive. So I know so many scientists who also have degrees in music. It's, something that uh, I think only helps your brain. And I think there's a lot of research that supports music education and how music can change your thinking. But I think it also teaches you so many things. And it, although I don't, play clarinet daily or anything anymore, the creativity and the music and integrating that into my daily process is a big part of it. I don't think that you should try and fit in one of those boxes, scientist or art, or and in this case music, but I think that you can combine them and they're better together. So I that's not very satisfying. I mean, you do have to pick the thing that you want your job more to be. And at Real Good AI, we're trying to combine these two things because I don't think that they should be as separate as they have been. And we should get people in the same room so that we can talk about how the art world is being impacted by what AI is doing and vice versa. And I've made this new place so that we can do both and we don't have to pick. I think these
And
opportunities exist. They're just few and far between, and you have to find the right place. But with the world the way it is, it's possible.
I mean, definitely, it's fair with the internet. It's more possible. It seems more possible than it ever has been before to sort of make your own position, right? It used to be you had to get a job at someone else's company. That was kind of the only thing. And it's not just easy to be successful on the internet, to do YouTube or Twitch or whatever, but you can kind of have a more niche blending things together position if you can find a way to make it work financially and still pay your bills and stuff. But and thank you, Dan, for circling it back to AI. Speaking of AI, how much AI music do you make, and how much better is it than the human music that you hear coming out of boring old humans?
How much AI music do I make?
Yeah, well, that's a facetious
He
way
was
to
being
ask.
sarcastic.
Do
Yeah.
you use or know if you use any AI stuff, even like filters, software that you use, production stuff that you use? I don't know if like Finale or anything. How do you interface with AI as a working musician?
Well, um, when it comes to plugins that I use, I'm pretty sure that the processing plugins, and when I say plugins, I mean um, the type of programs that run within digital audio workstation software like Pro Tools or Logic Pro or even GarageBand. There are little mini programs that run within them on the audio tracks, and there are these little slots called insert effects, and then the insert effect, you can load up one of these plugins, and it's like a little kind of mini plugin that runs inside of it, or mini program. Some of these programs, I think that right now they're seeing how they can integrate AI into them, but I'm pretty sure that it still hasn't really filtered its way into that yet. Um, there's been a before the rise of generative AI, these plugins were generally trying to emulate hardware, like your favorite compressor in a recording studio, just moving that and making it look just like it does in the recording studio. And it turned out that that was too complicated for people to use. And so then uh, leading up to like 2020, 2021, 2022, the new wave of plugins was to simplify and to have these more user-friendly tools. And I think we're still kind of in that age right now. So in terms of those composing and arranging and music production tools, I don't think that I use any. I will say though that I have played around on stream in certain collab streams with programs like Suno, for example. And
Which
there
is
was a
that's a
collab.
generative music thing where you type in like a sentence or something, right? You type in words and it gives you music based on language. That's how that works.
That's right. You can. Oh, are we back?
Yeah, you're
Sometimes
good.
my audio clips out a little bit. I'm sorry about that. Uh, you you can ask for a genre. You can even ask for it to write the lyrics for you, or you can put the lyrics in yourself. And I've only played with it a little bit, and it's only really been for a gimmick. Like for example, I did a collab stream with some DJs called the Database, who actually live pretty close by, and so they had a front page opportunity. So I went over and we were doing all these kind of special things for this stream, And one of them was that people could have their own songs, and they're DJs, so they queue up a song and they play it. It's not really a music creation stream. So to go along with that, we we were sort of, for a particular dono goal, people could have a song performed on stream for them. And so we use Suno to plug in their name and as succinctly as possible, because there's a character limit on a lot of these tools, what the song is about.
Hmm.
And then it spits out like two versions of a song. And there's something really interesting to me about AI music, and that is that for people who are older than a certain age, it can be really difficult to tell the difference between what's AI generated and what's not. But for people younger than a certain age, it's really easy. And that there's a creator called Rick Beato who made a whole video about this, about how he was playing around with Suno and his kids heard it and they were like, "What are you doing with that AI music?" And he was like, "How did you know?" And then he decided to quiz them on it, and they got it every single time. He's like, played a real song, played an AI song, and he was like, "I don't know how you just did that. I couldn't tell the difference." And they said, "No, Dad, you need to understand this, especially when it comes to the vocals. You can kind of hear it. There's like a tinniness to it. There's
Mm.
like a metallic, or just this glitchiness." And I think that I've clued into this as well. Um, and I understand that as we get further and further along, um, that this will be optimized and it'll be harder and harder for even uh, younger people who are highly attuned to tell the difference. But my hope is that you'll always be able to tell the difference, because it's scary to me how there are whole virtual artists springing up who are generating, you know, tens and hundreds of thousands of Spotify listens.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, the quality is only going to get better. And here we are at the beginning of it. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I do think, I wonder, it, having been a musician for enough of my life, I feel like I can kind of always hear it as well. But I do, it's interesting to see what a normal, like a non-musician, non-trained, but like normal music consumers who love music, listen to a lot of music, what their take is on stuff like that, because it is getting a lot better. I remember when the first AI music I ever heard was in like 20, I think I was in law school still. So it would have been like 2015, maybe 2016. And it was, someone tried to use AI to like recreate, to make Beatles sounding things. And it was kind of like the Will Smith spaghetti AI video. Like it did vaguely sound like someone thought about the Beatles while they were trying to make this music, but it was mostly hilarious. Like the lyrics
It
were
was the
hilarious. It was
LaCroix
all,
of music.
yeah, but it's definitely way beyond that now. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I mean, it's hard to keep, as a person who's myself completely online, completely like, I see AI stuff everywhere. I see people using chatbots and generative stuff. I hear it's hard to keep a perspective on like what does a normal person who only bumps into AI coincidentally, or only maybe knows, certain specific types of AI tools or products or whatever's out there, how that's going to hit them, because it's not really everyone's job to know and discern and be like, that's an AI thing, or whatever, that's generated. But I think people, like you sort of pointed out with your YouTube video success, people are interested in connecting with humans. They're interested in knowing that this thing I'm watching or listening to or looking at is actually made by a person. This is not just some slop that someone made 150 versions of, and I happen to find
Right.
this one. So
Yeah. And I, I think that also there's, there's a nuance that people are also very attuned to. Like, you could have a real person who is still using material and a script that's AI derived, and it's not really, there's not a lot of content. There's not a lot of substance to what's being said, and you're not quite sure why or don't seem to be getting much out of it. And I think those are kind of similar and almost even worse, because it's trying to to disguise still the same idea of AI generated content, even though it's presented by a real person. Um, and and yeah, on that video that I did, there were a lot of comments of, "Oh, I've never seen something quite like this before. Thanks. It's not just the same old, you know, thing." Um, so that made me feel like I was kind of on the right track.
Yeah.
Because I really was just trying to present my own, you know, my own perspective on, you know, different ways to play that one song in different styles.
Well, and
Um,
when you have hard won expertise, when you have knowledge that you've developed because just played you've played a lot of shows, you've played in a lot of different settings. I think even people who might not have a strict interest in learning piano or learning that skill for any reason that, of their own, it's fascinating to hear someone with that type of knowledge and expertise just explain it to you, just to hear someone who knows something so intimately and has learned
I
something
agree.
so
Yeah,
thoroughly. It's pretty much always interesting. So I'm sure that
yeah.
also resonates.
And
um
to go back to the question that somebody had about how to balance musical and scientific pursuits, um, the first thing that popped into my head was that, um, you know, the mind-body connection and we still don't understand nearly enough about how the brain works, but that uh, there's been a lot of um, a lot of credence given to certain types of productivity methods, the Pomodoro method, for example, bursts of work, little breaks, coming back for more work, and that maybe there's a balance that you can have in terms of, in those breaks, playing some music, either listening to music or performing some music, and giving your brain, or you know if you're if there's truth to, um, which side of your brain is being more active in these creative pursuits as opposed to some other more mundane tasks, that getting more of that sort of back and forth between the different parts of your brain as you're going through your day, you can derive some benefit, overall in your work. Maybe that's a way to balance. Maybe that's too much to do and too kind of whiplashy, but that was a thought that I had.
No one can do science 12 hours a day. You always have time. I'm just saying.
well, if you
That
try
makes
and
a
do
lot of
science
sense.
12 hours a day, some of it is going to be really bad science because
Well,
that's
and your
exhausting.
brain is going to totally burn out. You need something else. So, music is a good outlet. So, speaking of this, let's play another song so
Yeah.
we get
Yeah, I
some
would love to.
beautiful.
While the requests come in, the one thing I want to say is I do love the overlay. And my brain can't comprehend how to play music. I tried multiple instruments, so that's why I've just been listening to you all talk because it's something that I've always been really interested in. But watching your overlays are incredible because I couldn't understand sheet music. My brain wouldn't translate sheet music to the instrument with my hands. But it's really fun watching your streams because there's like multiple channels that you can learn from. You have the sheet music, you have what's playing, and it almost looks like Guitar Hero, which my brain understands that
Mm,
concept. So it's like, and so I know where the keys are and stuff. So it's been really cool to watch how you do that. And then same thing with that human element versus AI. Like I couldn't learn if it was just like hit the A button or hit the B key. I'd be like, I don't know. But watching you play it, I could be like, oh, that button is that like it's very cool to watch what you create versus how I tried to learn music when I was younger. So it's very cool to watch that. And I think that might be a reason why
thanks.
you have people that are like, oh, this is really cool. I want to learn music again. Because it's probably people that went, this isn't for me. My brain can't translate paper to an instrument. And then seeing in a digital form allows people to have like a second channel into learning it, which is which is really cool. I don't want to interrupt the request, but
No,
I
no.
wanted to
So
make sure I at least got that thought in there because it's very cool to watch
thanks, Craig.
all of it. And then, yeah, I have no idea how music works. So I'm just amazed every time sounds go together and then they sound good. So I'm just like, wow, you can do magic? That's very cool. Um, and yeah, you do magic. The other thing is the TwitchCon show. I realized that was like the one time I sat down was actually watching you play sax. So I have one video of me just sitting there looking at like over the scenic view and then you playing sax and then you talking about sax facts. So it was very cool. But yeah, I just want to
I'm
at least
glad that yeah.
That
All
one
those sax
guy
facts were
was
written,
so
by the
hype
way.
about the sax facts that everyone was pretty into it, but there was one dude who was
It was that one
there
guy.
for the sax
Yeah,
facts.
he was going berserk. Yeah, and none of that was AI generated, by the way. It was all my wife and I in our hotel room, and actually, and that was doing that was a really wonderful kind of nostalgic moment for us because we used to work together a lot. We wrote again part of my career that I glossed over. When we were still in Boston, we worked for a children's theater company called Pocket Full of Tales, and we wrote songs for these musicals that kids would perform. It was a kind of a private company, and the director would write these short little shows. Kids would perform for their parents, and we wrote these songs for the kids to perform. And we also wrote like a 15-minute sung through musical that was featured in a local kind of New England theater competition and it was featured. Our show was featured in the Boston Globe at the time. So yeah, we like just working on those sax facts was like, oh, it's just like old times. Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
the guy came through the recording. It was awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, he was really excited. So yeah, what do you guys want to hear?
You can pick, Dan. I think there are some interesting ones. One person
Mm-hmm.
on Real Smoky made a request that I like. A thing you do on your streams is often people request something that's like metal or what, and you're like, how about I play a chill version of that? Which
Yeah,
I think
chill
is
version
always
of metal.
pretty fun.
Yeah, okay, let's do
but
that.
also Campco, who is a volunteer and also has streamed, I think, for Real Good during our event here, said just play a song that makes you feel happy. So you can pick. You can look at there are a couple other ones too. Someone requested "Happy Together" by the Turtles. I want you to play something that you're excited about because when you stream, you kind of are subject to the whims of whoever subs and whatever. You can pick.
Well, I like that idea of like a song that that you don't associate with like chill, but can be sort of put into a chill mood. Let me get this flute sound that I play a lot because I use that as a melody instrument. And let's see, what's a let's see, like maybe Enter Sandman. Is that like a stereotypical good
That's a definitely a good stereotypical like classic metal chill
okay, awesome.
chill flight of the bumblebees. All right, we're not trying to torture Dan. Calm down.
Okay, let me try to do that. I haven't played it in a while, but I'm up for the challenge. Okay, here we go. I'm up for the challenge. Okay, here we go.
Yay.
Thank you.
Nice.
Trying to do the bass line at the same time was kind of like killing me. That's
No, that's
the one thing that's really
all
hard
over
for
the
me.
place.
I've done that in a while.
Man,
Thank you, Dr. Cheesehouse.
I never thought of the chorus from Enter Sandman as being so dreamy, but it's actually very delightful.
Right? Yeah, the best songs, it doesn't matter the style, like if they're well-written songs, they translate really well, no matter what you do with it.
Yeah, well, and I think they kind of got an answer, but Dr. Cheesus in chat while you were playing said, "What is that mouthpiece contraption?" First time seeing that. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and I get a lot of questions about this on my stream, as you might imagine. So I learned about this thing. It looks really fragile, and so far it's been pretty sturdy. It's made by a company called TE Control, and I believe it's like tecontrol.se. It's a European company, and this is a breath and bite controller. And basically, it's just a MIDI controller, and it responds to how hard you're blowing into it, and that determines like how the note velocity or the volume, right? It gets louder and softer, but it also responds to bite, and you can map the biting to whatever
So is that how you're adding the vibrato then?
Exactly.
Okay. Because
Exactly.
I was like,
right.
Man, that's a lot of breath control. I assumed you were doing the vibrato with the air, but that would be exhausting. I know that's how some instruments work,
and
but
you can imagine like how could you modulate your breath so that it knows to discriminate between the volume and the vibrato, right? So
right.
it's a different continuous controller. So, and when I say continuous controller, for those of you who know about MIDI, are you changing the notes via the key? Yeah, so there's actually a keyboard off to the side that you can't see, and on my stream there's like different
He's like 7 cameras on his main stream setup. It's crazy.
Oh, so yeah, so when I bite down, it's the vibrato. Now there's actually 2 other sensors inside of this thing that I don't use, and they're gyroscopes, if you can believe that. So like it'll respond to left and right, and it'll also
so
respond
you could
to
like bend pitch
yaw.
like you're playing flute or something. You could.
Play
That'd be
Rhapsody
so
in Blue.
silly.
Right. So you could pan it around. You're going like, but I very quickly realized that I'm moving around so much that I would be inadvertently. So I disabled the gyroscopes. And it's just yeah, but I love this thing.
This is maybe a thing only I'm interested in, but I've always been curious. You play a wind instrument, so you know what this means. What's the back pressure like? Are you blowing through like an open tube, or does it give you back pressure on your blowing, as far as like breath management sort of stuff? How does that feel?
There's a tiny little outlet, like you can probably hear that.
Okay.
So it's letting the air out, but there's still a little bit of
there's resistance, but it's not just like you're blowing like through your open mouth or something, because you'd run out of air immediately.
Right, exactly. So it's somewhere in between, and it allows enough air through so that it's not you don't feel like you're holding your breath, but there's still enough resistance so that the sensor can really tell how hard you're blowing into it. So it's pretty well calibrated.
Interesting.
Yeah. The problem that I sometimes have is that you can get kind of gross, like saliva, and like sometimes, like there have been times when if I don't kind of take my mouth off and kind of deal with all of that. Sorry, another audio glitch. I have my audio routed through this this other program that I think sometimes has to catch up with reality. But anyway, there have been times on stream where like I see like a little spray, and I'm like, oh, that's gross. But anyway,
That's really funny.
What was it called again? The thing?
it's called a, I think it's just called a breath and bite controller. And it's on their website, tecontrol.se, I think. It's this small
Cool.
little company, and their website looks like it's from 2005 or something. Like they haven't invested a lot into their web presence, but I think it came from Switzerland, maybe.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
There's like I know people that play video games with controllers that are similar. So hearing that it goes into music is kind of cool. There's like a sip and puff alternative that goes into music and seeing how you use it. Because I saw the question pop up and I was like, I actually don't know what that is. So I'm hoping he answers it. But yeah, that's very cool that that connects that way.
Yeah, and I love the thing that I really like about it is that um, the idea of electronic wind instruments um, has been around for a long time, and you've probably seen people playing any number of strange contraptions that are usually like just sort of straight lines, like they look like plastic baguettes or something with keys on them, um, and um, and a lot of the major musical manufacturers like Roland, Yamaha, they make their own versions of electronic wind instruments. Um, Oftentimes, the problem with these wind instruments is that you need two hands to play them, and the sounds are baked in, or at least
Mm.
the easiest way to play them is to use their sounds, and the sounds are always or almost always just awful. Um, and so you got to use two hands, and you don't like the sounds, but you still have to pay, I don't know, $800, $900 for something like that. So what do you do? So I found out about this from Mecha Choi, who is a music streamer, a friend of mine, Mike Choi, brilliant guy. He doesn't stream that much anymore. I think he's part of a high level VR team um, at Oculus. I think that's where he was working before. But but he, I saw him using this, and it was back in the pandemic, and I was like, oh my god, got to have it. And the reason is because it just does the only thing I want, which is be able to have that uh, very discreet and nuanced change in breath that you can only really get from either something like this, or if your hand is on a modulation wheel. If you've ever seen a
Yeah.
synthesizer, you have those two wheels. One of them is the pitch wheel, so you go, wah, wah, but then the other one next to it is the modulation wheel, and that's typically like what film composers and other digital music producers use in order to have that human touch to the changes in either uh, vibrato or volume for instruments like string instruments, or I use this flute instrument. So, but 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 I wanted to also be able to accompany myself with my left hand, and I needed something that I could basically only play with one hand as opposed to these two-hand electronic wind instruments. And I think this is really a great solution for that, because it gives you the best of all worlds. You can have the benefit of being able to have a real human sound, as if you were really playing the flute, with the changes in the pressure of your breath, while at the same time choosing the notes with one of your with one of your hands. And I have other instruments. Sometimes I use a cello sound. Like I can demonstrate that now if you want. I can play a cello, a song with a cello sound.
Well, I don't know if this would
Or
interest chat, but I something you said
yeah,
stuck out to me. You said that the EWIs, which have been around, electronic wind instruments, that I know they make their own sounds, but I always assumed that they were also sort of just MIDI controllers that you run them through. But you sort of implied that they don't. A lot of them don't work that way, which I think is fascinating because for anyone in chat who doesn't know, a MIDI controller is basically it's the thing on Dan's neck, right? It's something that tells a computer or a piece of software like we're playing a note, we're not playing a note. Often a MIDI controller will be a keyboard, so obviously it's telling the computer which note it's playing, but it can make any sound that you want. It's a thing where it's a data transfer type of or data input thing, but the sound is actually made on the computer, so you can pick, and you can pick a good sound, you can pick a different instrument. But
Right.
so a lot of iwis, you have to use sort of the baked in
Well,
sounds that they give you, or
well, I didn't mean to give that implication.
no?
I
I
think
just think
that
that's interesting.
you can you can use these iwis as a wind controller,
Mm-hmm.
but I think oftentimes uh, there's a barrier to that in terms of how are you going to trigger your computer from this electronic wind instrument, and oftentimes it can be a little unwieldy because you have to have these things wired into your machine, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Right now, actually, there's a company that's on the forefront of what they call WIDI, which is wireless MIDI.
Hmm.
And until like basically very, very recently, the idea of wireless MIDI had latency built into it. And you guys know, even the smallest amount of latency, even like 10 milliseconds of latency can really mess up you know, your feeling of connectedness and timing with a musical instrument. Um, uh, so you have to have this iwi basically wired into your machine. So you only have a cord coming off of your this thing, and maybe how long is the cord, and where is your machine, and is it getting tangled at your feet? Um, so I think that the practical implications have always made it that it's just easy to, if you want to get the Roland Aerophone, then you should be pretty happy with the sounds it makes because that's
Mm,
probably what you're going to use.
that's interesting.
Yeah, and somebody asked in chat, uh, are there plugins that you like? Where do you go? Um, T8. By the way, my vision is terrible, so I can't read. I think it's T85. Where do you go for your sound samples? Are there any preferences on plugins or software? Yes, I do have definite preferences. In terms of that flute sound that I used, I really, really like a company called Audio Modeling, and they make a series of instruments called SWAM, SWAM. Their flutes are fantastic. They have some saxophones that are fantastic, although typically I just play saxophone on stream if I'm going to play sax. Um, and in terms of the string sounds and the brass sounds, for the beef one, I'm still like laughing about that. Um, I was using Cinebrass, which is made by a company called Cinesamples. And the cello sound is also from Cinesamples from their Cinestrings solo line. Um, and for me, it's always, it's always a subjective thing. Everyone has different tastes, and everyone has different impressions of what sounds real and what doesn't. But to me, um, I think the Sinistring solo sounds real. I can demonstrate if you want right now
Well,
and
can
play
we
a
take
song.
one step back before you do and just
Sure. Oh, sure.
explain the sampling bit for people who don't know anything about electronic music?
Mm,
Like, how does it
Sure.
work? You like buy the sound?
So the way it works is that, and this has been basically the the way that samples and sampled instruments have been working since, um, I don't know, for at least the past 25 years or so. But in order to have a realistic performance of an instrument that exists in the real world, someone needs to record that instrument, and they need to record it painstakingly, note by note, dynamic level by dynamic level. And then, even then, multiple different, uh, like playing of that note, like a piano, playing that piano note soft, but then playing it soft again and again. And then what happens is these software developers that are developing these sample instruments will map those tiny recordings, or maybe they're bigger recordings, because sometimes when you press the note, it continues to play on because this is a recording of when they recorded that note. So however many seconds that is. Um, and they'll map it to that key on the keyboard, on their virtual keyboard. And then they'll map maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 versions of that quiet recording because they'll have something called a round robin algorithm built in so that when I play this note over and over again, those are all different recordings of that note. And so you can imagine it's like thousands, I don't know, all mapped across the entire keyboard, or for the flute across the keyboard based on those flute recordings. Um, and then based on the limits, the range of the note range of whatever instrument it is. Um, uh, and um, and then packaged inside of a little mini program, like I talked about, a plug-in program. The dominant wrapper or macro program that runs within uh, Pro Tools or Logic or any of these programs is made by a company called Native Instruments, and that program is called Contact. They've been selling this for years and years. Right now, they're up on version 8 right now of Contact, and it's and they each one of these versions or sometimes go for years and years. So it's version 8, but it's been going on for maybe decades at this point. Some software manufacturers that make these sample programs will make their own wrappers, their own programs that are discrete. Some of them use really onerous security measures to make sure that you don't just buy it and give it to your friend. And if you've heard of iLock, iLock is used to make sure that it's secure and that only the person who bought the license to use the sample program can use it. And I think the reason for this is because it's a very relatively small uh, uh, kind of demographic of people who both have a need for these types of high quality sample programs and are also willing to pay the sometimes hundreds of dollars uh, in order for these companies to kind of stay in business and let alone turn a profit. So yeah, I think it's a high pressure industry to make these sample libraries and sampled instruments, and especially now with um, the economy becoming even more sort of perilous and people having less money for the bare necessities. Um, being a sample library and sampled instrument developer these days, I think must be pretty stressful. But that's
Yeah.
how it works in a nutshell.
That's, I don't know if you
Thank
know
you.
this. That almost
Yeah.
sounds like it must be a side, kind of a secondary thing for companies, that because you have to have, I mean, you don't have to have, but to do that sort of work, you must have a lot of audio recording savvy, which is a very specific and niche type of thing. But then you must have a lot of sort of production side savviness, people with good ears who are working on this stuff. Like you, this must be is this a side thing where like a company that makes a microphone and audio company also they have this other thing because it's like it's kind of an audio recording enterprise, or are these really niche standalone things? Do you know anything about that? I'm not sure if that's, it's just
The,
fascinating
the
because it's
companies
such
that
a,
make sampled instruments,
yeah.
um, usually they are focused directly um, on the software side and
Hmm.
not making any other hardware. Um, for example, Cinesamples that I mentioned earlier, what I really like their Cinesolo. You know that song that I wrote and that Ethan sang called "When I Met You."
Hmm.
Um, so I used all of the Cinesamples solo library for the strings in there, and it sounds really realistic. And I've had a lot of people tell me, "Oh wow, who did you hire to play the strings on that?" Um, but they are they're a little bit of an outlier in that they hired um, like session players from Hollywood here in LA, and then like like worked it out with their union and gave them a profit share. So,
Hmm.
and it basically never works that way. Like they sample libraries, they hire musicians to come in, they pay them a flat fee, it's done. But in the case of Cinesamples, I think these folks are actually still on a profit share, and those libraries are still generating, you know, revenue for those musicians who participated. And I know that Cinesamples also has now a subscription model now where you don't have to pay hundreds of dollars to access their plugs anymore. You can just buy a subscription to something called Museo, which is web based. So uh, you can basically use any of their libraries and on a month to month basis, kind of like a lot of other subscription models like Adobe or
Interesting.
Waves, for example, plugins.
I mean, those companies are they just really like making audio samples, I guess. I mean, if you're successful, you're successful because you're one of the whatever 6 companies in the world that makes them, that is known. But that's very interesting. It's such a
Yeah,
niche little thing.
and what I love most of all is when I'm like scrolling Instagram, there and it seems like they've been proliferating more recently. Is I'll see these Instagram ads for brand new uh, uh, sample instrument manufacturers, and they're just like one person shops, and they have they have like one piano, and like I have one called Shearwater Piano, and it's beautiful, and it's just this one guy, and I think he's maybe 20 something years old, and he's charged like $30 for it, um, and it's great,
That's
and I think there's been a real democratization of these types of libraries that's happened, especially in the past 5 years, where the knowledge has become uh, a lot more well known, and so it's not just the big players like Native Instruments or Spitfire Audio is another one, or even Cinesamples. It's these young people in their bedrooms, kind of similar to how the music industry and was democratized as computers got more and more powerful and people making a hit in their bedroom.
yeah, that's cool.
I can
Is
show
it?
you Shearwater Piano. I think actually, or
Maybe do you want to try and put that into another song? Would you be up for playing another
yeah,
song?
and maybe I tell you what, maybe I'll try to do a loop, um,
Ooh,
and then I'll use Shearwater Piano and then also the cello. How's that sound?
I like it.
Perfect.
Okay, great. And actually, I can show my looper view as well. There might be some of my stream overlay at the
Oh,
bottom
don't
though,
worry
if
about
that's
it.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's do it.
Uh, yeah. Did you have a song in mind, or are you?
Oh, that's a good question. Chat, what do you think?
Chat has put out "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" by ABBA. Is that originally by ABBA?
Or Cyndi Lauper?
Yeah, that's Cyndi Lauper, right?
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, I made the Mandy Brandy mistake, so who am I to talk?
Carry On My Wayward Son, Chill Rough Riders Anthem. I actually don't know. The Phantom of the
Hmm.
Opera.
Sometimes for loops, good choices are ones where it's like the same 4 chords over and over. So a song like that. Wonder if I can find. Okay, or I can just sort of do a improv loop.
If you have something, since you're trying to use the looper, I don't think any of those particularly loop very
I think you're
well.
right. I think
I
you're
think
right. Yeah, yeah.
you could run with if you have an idea, run with whatever you want to do. The loop is fun, Chad. If you've never seen anyone make music with a looper, it's a little device where Dan will record himself playing, but then the thing will continue to play whatever he played on loop. But he has controls potentially over effects on it and starting and stopping things. There are people who use loopers to make music using exclusively like their voice, but they they beatbox and they make different instrument sounds and they make whole pieces of music live, just adding layers and layers and layers. So I don't know what Dan's gonna do, but if you've never seen a looper, it's very fun.
Here's another idea. Are there any video game melodies or like themes from video games that people especially like? Because sometimes these video game themes are relatively short, and so I'll like lay down a piano track and then I'll lay down another track, and it's easy to kind of build an arrangement of a
Do,
video game
do you know
melody.
Halo?
And
Because that one actually is cello. Well, it's
oh,
chanting and cello, but the main theme I think is
you mean that da 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 da
yeah, I
da
think
da
that's
da
cello.
da? That's a good one. Um, might be hard to do on like as a lyrical cello melody. Um, but let's see. Are there any like Chrono Cross or Chrono Trigger songs that you like? Or chat, what do you think?
That's
People like Halo.
sorry,
Well, I don't want to stand in the
sorry,
way of
chat. Calm
popular
down.
opinion.
Yeah, chat. Mark, okay for skeleton. Said Mark Rebelet. I love Mark Rebelet. He's kind of a
He's
vile
very
person,
funny.
but his loops are
Oh
very
my God.
funny.
Oh, is he?
Do you want to know
I mean,
some-
I don't mean like he's a bad person. I mean his stuff is
Oh.
all like dirty and he swears. It's not for kids, but his music is very funny and very good.
He's great. Yeah. I once was pulling out of my driveway, my apartment building, and he was coming down the sidewalk
Ha.
on some kind of a like one of these unicycle things
That's
that
funny.
look like they're death traps. And so instead of backing up or pulling forward so that he could pass, I got out of my car and I was like, "Hey, what's up? You're amazing." And he was like, "Thanks." I kind of like blocked his way just so I could talk to him. So that's my anyway. And he was like, "Thanks." You could do the opening melody for Halo. That's better, the vocal part. If I had sheet music for it.
Yeah, that one's a little intricate. I mean, someone said the main theme of we have one vote for the main theme of Chrono Trigger.
Oh, okay.
That counts.
Chrono Trigger. Let me see. By the way, if anyone is looking to play more video game music, I would like to put a plug in for vgleadsheets.com. Some of you might already know about this website. It's completely free. It's an amazing resource. It's the only reason that I can play any video game music at all. It's the brainchild of another Twitch music streamer called Jer Roque, JER_ROQUE. Yeah. He's just incredible, deserves a follow in his own right. But just really wonderful resource for musicians. So Chrono Trigger main theme.
Does he handwrite it or is it transcribed somehow?
It's transcribed using digital sheet music programs like Finale or Sibelius, but he also has a team and it's all volunteer. And it goes through a painstaking review process to make sure that everything's correct. So yeah, and on each sheet it says who composed the music to give credit to the composer of whatever music is being transcribed, and then also whoever transcribed it. So let's
That's
see.
great.
That's very cool.
And those tools are so cool. Like I did a project, I was trying to like use math to model Bach chorales in my undergrad. And those tools didn't exist then. So I spent like half my time handwriting down, turning the music into data. And it's
Well, that's
great that
good.
you can just do this now.
Handwriting, I think, is, I mean, that's the best way to really know what you're doing. You know, I think that in the age of digital sheet music, we've all basically become sort of trial and error people, where we kind of like write something down and then say, okay, I'm going to play it back. Let's see whether I got it right. And then it plays back and you're like, oh, that doesn't sound quite right. But if you have to handwrite it, the only way to check yourself is if you're playing the piano, right? And that's where the rubber meets the road, right? Is Chrono Trigger just, is that the melody? Like
Uh-oh. Are you guys hearing him?
Is that?
Sorry,
Oh,
I don't think the piano didn't come through Discord very well.
Really got you that time.
Yeah.
So
let's see. Zelda's Lullaby was also a request. That's a good option.
That
too.
is a good one.
Should I just do that?
Sure.
Yeah, I always think Zelda when I think video game music.
Okay, I definitely have played this plenty of times. Okay, 3/4. So I'll put Ableton into 3/4. Yeah, let's do this, and this is a good one for cello too.
Yeah, it is.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to follow along, you can go to vgleadsheets.com and you can find Princess Zelda's Rescue. That's or otherwise known as Zelda's Lullaby. Okay. And actually, I'll put this on my actually no, I'll just put this on the loop review. That's what I'll do. Okay, are we ready? Am I ready? Okay, here we go.
My stream broke. Okay, there we go. We're good.
And there's my LED is kind of broken here. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So usually, I put down a piano first. And I was talking about Shearwater piano. Okay. Sorry that took a little while.
That was really
That was
beautiful.
great, Dan.
It's amazing.
Thank you, Mandy. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Bob.
Cello is my favorite instrument. I don't play the cello, but I love the cello so much.
Right? Yeah, it's an incredible instrument. Uh, I didn't realize this, but Leve is a cellist and kind of started on cello. If you know
Hmm.
Leve, the Icelandic jazz
Mhm.
phenom. Oh no?
Mm-mm.
No, I
Um,
do. Yeah.
Mandy, you've heard Leve. Yeah. Craig, have you heard of Leve?
No, I
So
have
so
not.
for Craig and Bob, Leve is the most listened to jazz artist on Spotify
Huh.
ever. She owns
Cool.
it. She's like this superstar, kind of a crooner type of jazz artist. Adam Neely has a fantastic video actually about whether or not you
Oh.
can classify Leve's music as jazz,
Hmm.
which I don't think that she would appreciate. But
That sounds like an Adam Neely video. I do watch his stuff.
but yeah, so yeah, I think cello is a wonderful instrument. One of my first cousins plays cello, and whenever we would go to visit, um, and she would play, I would be like, "Oh my God, what is that?" Amazing. Thank you,
Well,
Bell.
and
What's up, Belbo?
tech with technology, you get to play all these instruments.
Right?
It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I actually,
It's a blessing to. Mhm.
that reminded me, I had a question. Because I know you were talking about the samples and everything for all the instruments, which is amazing. Uh, is it getting harder? Because you were talking about how painstakingly the artists go and create these sounds. Is it getting harder to find ones that are made by artists and not AI, or is it well documented, or how is that process working now that this is
Well, I mean, there might be some of these sampled instrument. They're called virtual instruments. There might be some virtual instruments that are made using AI, but I still think that they're being constructed using recorded samples. But I mean, I'm sure it won't be too long before you know people start trying to um, uh, create virtual instruments with AI. Uh, there there are some there are some virtual instrument developers that have tried to model instruments. Um, uh, a good example of that is Piano Tech, which is a favorite among some digital music production folks. It, and the reason is because it's a very small file size. With these sample instruments, usually, and especially for pianos, they're huge. There can be like 30 or 40 gigabytes of samples.
Yikes.
Um, and and because of that, you always need to be putting these on another drive. You can't have it on your boot drive usually.
Yeah.
And even if you have a large enough boot drive, because um, it has to go seek and then load it into RAM. You need a lot of RAM also. It's not uncommon for even sort of a medium-sized, you know, producer or composer to have like 96, 128 gigs of RAM,
Good
just
grief.
because they need to load all these samples into RAM in order to use them in Pro Tools or whatnot. But if you model an instrument, then there's no samples to worry about. And Piano Tech, a lot of people really like their solution to piano modeling.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and I think that actually Swam is another example. What I said, the flute sound. I think their company is called Audio Modeling. I think for that exact reason,
Huh.
they've modeled their instruments as opposed to the sample-based approach.
That's really cool.
So Craig, I think you're right. It won't be too long before it's AI instrument modeling.
Well, it won't
mm,
be too
But
long
I mean,
before. Oh, go ahead.
thinking about that interaction, I mean, we're running out of time, so I don't want to get into this whole can of worms, but like music has always been this time like you don't play the samples that sound bad. Like AI is going to have to be like at the very peak of its game before musicians will start to even adopt that at all because it's going to need to sound indistinguishable as opposed to some weirdness to it like we still have these days.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I really hope that there's always there will always be something lacking. Um, if you guys know Charlie Puth,
Oh yeah.
who's a pop artist, he's also kind of an educator online, and he educates in his short form. And I saw a post of his recently where he said, um, "Did you know that in the song Roxanne by the Police that Sting inadvertently sat on the piano the beginning of the tune? Like there's this cluster, like there's this weird sound at the beginning, and then a voice saying something that you can't quite make out, but it's Sting like reacting, be like, oh, whoops." You know, the little things that happen in the studio. Or apparently there's a song where Paul McCartney like plays the wrong chord, and he says like bloody hell or something, and gets
Oh
picked
yeah.
up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also just, yeah, these little things that make recordings real and that AI will never incorporate. Um, or just noise, bad connections, feedback, distortion, these things that make a recording sound worse or be less perfect. I
Hmm.
really hope that that will always be there in order to provide that realness
There's some
that AI can't.
there's some seriously interesting stories about some of the sort of like legendary recording studios. I cannot remember the name of it, but there's this really fascinating story about this place. I think it's in Chicago, possibly. It's a studio that's known for having this very specific effect. It's a thing that's built in the basement, and it's an effect where you feed sound through it, and this big sheet of metal spins, and it creates like kind of a vibrato thing, and
Hmm.
it's this huge monstrosity that's built in this specific studio that people try and create like plugins like you were talking about to try and recreate it, and it's like everyone goes crazy. Artists were like trying desperately to get into the studio because they wanted that specific sound that's created by an analog device that like it exists in this one studio. There's all kinds of those sorts of amazing like stories, right? Or like how
Absolutely.
what wasn't Bohemian Rhapsody recorded, or no, it was not. Didn't they record one of their albums in like this farmhouse, or maybe or some then and some legendary other rock bands also recorded where it's like this 3-story farmhouse. It's all open, it has a very specific acoustic quality because you record, and the reverb and the room sound of it all is like people went to this place in the middle of nowhere in northern England because it had the sound. It captured the sound. It's very interesting. But if
Yeah,
you're at all interested in stories, there's tons of great little like mini documentaries or like behind the music type shows about that sort of stuff. Chat, fascinating stuff.
I think what you're describing with the rotating metal plates is maybe something that is combining two elements, which is the idea of a natural reverb chamber, which in different studios exists by what you're describing, like piping, like literally piping in sound from into a space, and then out of it in order to capture the natural reverberation of that space. But then those spinning plates sounds like what might be referred to as a Leslie in an organ,
Mm.
where you'll see a chamber underneath an organ where there's like this contraption that is spinning, and that has, it's almost like a cubicle, like a X-shaped, um, that that modulates the sound, but in a very unique way, and that because of the fact that the motor that's turning it presumably is not highly calibrated. It's just maybe it kind of goes a little faster, a little slower. There's natural variations to it. Um, you maybe get some warblings. Sometimes it's referred to as wow and flutter.
Mm.
There are plugins that can approximate the sound of a cassette tape and how you get that wow and flutter, changing the pitch almost like it kind of warbles. Like sometimes a Twitch stream, if you don't have if you have low latency turned on, it kind of warbles a little bit. Um, yeah, that's a very particular thing, and maybe it doesn't give the same result every time you use it.
Well, this has been fun. We are already over time, but this has been super fun.
Oh.
And that was probably the most beautiful and awesome live music performance I've seen in a while. That was really awesome, Dan.
Aw.
Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Bob.
And before we go, is there anything that you would like to plug? Obviously, follow Dan on Twitch at Music is Code, on YouTube, Music is Code.
Oh, yes.
But is there anything specific you want to talk about or plug before we end the stream today?
Well, first of all, it's just been a real pleasure. And thank you, Mandy, for coming up with this idea of ethical AI. I think that it's much needed. And I can't wait to continue the fundraising campaign on my channel. I usually stream Mondays and Wednesdays. I have Tuesdays and Wednesdays this week because I actually had a gig at the Groundlings, which I talked about earlier. But I one thing to look out for is another sax performance that I'm excited about, which is, so we did this big sax.exe show, and I put so much work into the charts and the backing tracks, and we did it once, and it was not really ideal circumstances. The sun was it was like being on the surface of Mars, and that our iPads were directly in the sun, and it looked as if the notes were red. Like, if you've ever look at sheet music under the beating sun, and it's like red, and I was like, is this thing gonna explode? So I'm looking to organize another show for sax.exe, and also maybe some other performers on the bill. Maybe even our friend Brian, Ninja Brian, because he is a saxophonist as well, and has this act, which I think is part musical, part comedy, right? Train Magnifique.
Yeah.
No, that's very serious. It's very serious.
It's very serious. I'm sorry. Yes. No. Perish the thought that it is comedic. So so some at a venue here in LA, maybe in the early winter, I'm looking to organize that. So that's something that I'm looking forward to, as well as my work with a Hasty Pudding show, which is continuing this year, and their show, it's called Saloony Tunes. It's a Wild West themed show, and if anyone's in the Cambridge, Massachusetts area, that show goes up in early February.
Nice.
And I'll be working on the arrangements there. Thank you to everyone in chat as well. It's been I wish that hey, what's up, McDizziness? Of course, thank you. And thank you, Bob and Craig. It was great to hang out with you guys at TwitchCon.
Yeah. No, it's great to see you in San Diego. And we do this thing that always turns out really awkward, but if you wouldn't mind hanging out for a moment, I always raid my stream over into the Real Good AI stream. Oh, actually, that's not going to work today, is it?
I know, I'm fixing it on the fly.
The way that we're piping this. No, we should probably just not do that today, because that's going to drag everything up. Just make sure you follow Real Good AI, twitch.tv/RealGoodAI. That's the channel that I'm co-streaming with here on Twitch. It's also on YouTube for people on the YouTube side of the stream, youtube.com/RealGoodAI. Also on Instagram. Follow all the things. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter if you're interested in getting involved. We have volunteer groups that are currently getting going on stuff. We have, if you're a streamer, or even if you're not a streamer and you want to stream, we have people like Dan who are participating in our Full Steam Ahead fundraising event right now, who are streaming, making fantastic content, and encouraging people to donate to support our mission. There's lots of great ways to learn more, get involved, and support Real Good AI as an organization, and we appreciate all of you who do any of them. But that's going to be the end of the stream.
Bob and I are going to be streaming all day tomorrow for our portion, raising money for Real Good. And next week, the Real Good stream will be back. We have a very special guest. You might know him. He's very distractible.
So it's not hair, it's no hair, but he's still fun. It's a good old no hair distractible.
No hair.
After you said that?
Do you call him no hair?
He calls himself that. I don't.
No.
He calls himself bald. With what was that bit? What was it? Mark was like, "I'm Markiplier," and I was like, "I'm Muyskerm," and he was like, "And I'm bald." He does it. If he does it, we're allowed to do it. That's the rules. Anyway,
then that's fine.
Yay,
it's like it's kind of like giving Spirited Away. Like no hair, like no face.
Yeah. Yeah, well, chat, no raid today. If you're a cool kid and you know what I'm talking about, then you'll have to catch it next time. But that's going to be the end of the stream. Thank you so much for hanging out. We will see you next Thursday with another special guest for the grand finale of the Full Stream Ahead event. But for now, we're out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out Dan. Check out Real Good AI. Have a good rest of your Thursday. Thanks so much, Dan.
Of course. Thank you, Bob. And bye, chat.
Bye, chat.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And...
Okay.